Well, we started last week this conversation about little rocks, and we're kind of camped out in Hebrews chapter 12. And the genesis of this came from a conversation that Joe and I were having with a lady about 18 months ago or so. And we were having this conversation, and she said to us, she said, most people don't twist their feet on boulders. Most of us twist our ankles on little rocks. And I thought about that, and I thought, that's spot on. I don't know that I've ever, tripped over a refrigerator. But I've tripped over lots of kids' toys. Anybody else in the room? I've never, twisted my ankle over a car, but I've had it twisted over little things that were left on the floor in the garage. And so I was reading then through Hebrews chapter 12, and I came along, and the Hebrews writer said, let's strip off all those things that weight us down as we run this race that God has called us to run, especially the things that so easily trip us up, especially the little rocks. And if you're here last week, we gave each one of you a little rock, and we encourage you to take it and hold on to it, because we said, most of us are not murdering people, most of us are not abducting children, most of us are not blowing up buildings, most of us are not stealing millions of dollars, but probably every single one of us has a little rock in our life, or a collection of little rocks, little things that trip us up, slow us down, and keeping us from running with endurance the race that God has called us to run. And so last week, as we talked about this, I encouraged you to remember that God has called you not only to run a race, but as we look through Scripture, God said, look, I don't want you to just run. I actually want you to win the race. I want you to run for a long time and run it well. So at the end of your days, when you're an old man or you're an old woman, or when you're facing death, you can look back over the course of your life and say, I did well. I lived well the life that God called me to live. And one of the ways that we do that is by removing the little rocks. And so I encourage you last week to take that little rock every day, and the line we used last week was, take your rock and talk to Jesus. Because if you read through Hebrews chapter 12, verse 1 through 2, the writer says, listen, let's remove those things that so easily trip us up. We do this by keeping our eyes on Jesus. And so that was the first thing we talked about last week, was this idea of taking it, naming it. God, my little rock is this. I struggle with greed. I struggle with anger. I struggle with pornography. I struggle with laziness. I struggle with whatever it is. You name the rock and you talk to Jesus. We encourage you to do that every day this week. Now, when we went home last week, I gave all of my family a rock. If you don't know, Mrs. Peterson and I have 6 daughters. So there's 8 of us, and I gave each one of them a rock. And I explained to them what we're doing. And so one of the things that I struggle with is I have a tendency to get angry. And this has been something that God has been working on in my life. And usually it's under control. It most often demonstrates itself on Celanese Road. So if I've been angry at you on Celanese, I beg your pardon. It's a little rock. And this week, multiple times, my daughters have called me out. Little rock, Dad, little rock. In fact, I think they've actually abused it. Anytime I did something they didn't like. Little rock, Dad, but you get the point, right? Because the little rocks are the things that keep showing up in our life, and they keep us from being everything that God wants us to be, and from enjoying this big, full life that God wants us to enjoy, the life that He's called us to, He promises. So, I'm thinking about this little rock, and I think, the truth is that sometimes we don't get rid of the little rocks, and there might be a few reasons that we keep them around. One of them is sometimes we like the little rocks in our life. Sometimes we like those little things. We think, I can still follow Jesus and keep the little rock in my pocket, or keep the little rock in my shoe, or keep the little rock in my backpack, and maybe we like it. Maybe it's gossip. We like to gossip because it gives us a sense of power. Maybe it's porn that we hold on to because it gives us a sense of relief. Maybe it's greed that we keep embracing. We're like, it'll be okay. I'm going to follow Jesus, but I can still be greedy because I want more, I want more, I want more. It's a little rock. Maybe it's white lies. We refuse to stop telling white lies because white lies allow us to feel good about the things we say while continuing and perpetuating laziness or dishonesty or procrastination or whatever the case may be. So we hang on to the little rock because we kind of like what it does in our life. We talked about it last week. You cannot run with endurance the race that God has called us to if you keep this in your sock, or keep it in your shoe, or keep it wherever. And sometimes we hang on to the little rocks because it's just inconvenient to stop. Right? We just keep them around because, man, to stop, to remove the little rock, have you ever you've been hiking and you got a little rock in your shoe, and you're walking along, you're like, man, if I have to stop and unbuckle my boot and take it out, that's going to be a problem. So what do? You kind of shift your foot. You ever do that? Anybody ever do that? Yeah. Sometimes we do that spiritually, right? Like, if I really try to remove this little rock, it's going to take time. It's going to be inconvenient. So we just kind of do this. So we keep the little rock around. And the truth is, at some point, that little rock will catch up with you, and it will absolutely deter from the spiritual race that God has called us to run. And sometimes we keep the little rock because we think, I can handle it. I can deal with it in my life. It's not so big. It's not like a massive boulder that I'm carrying around. I can actually deal with the little rock. And so we kind of work with it in our lives, disobeying the thing that God has called us to do, and that is get rid of it. Because it will keep us from running well. So in those moments, I got to have my clicker. In those moments, I don't know where my clicker is. All right, in those moments, God has got to do something in our lives. He has to take it to the next level. Basically, He's looking at us and saying, God bless you. You guys are awesome. The only place I ever misplace things is here at church. Tell the truth. I'm kidding. So, listen, sometimes God looks at us and says, look, if you're not going to get rid of the little rock in your life, I'm going to have to take it to the next level. I've told you what you need to do. You need to get rid of it, but if you refuse to do it, here's what I'm going to have to do. I'm going to have to take it to the next level. Discipline. I'm going to have to ratchet things up a notch, he says. I'm going to have to discipline you. I'm going to have to correct you. Now, I don't know that I've ever really taken a whole entire talk and talked about the discipline of God in our lives. But this is something that's actually fairly important, something we need to have a conversation in, because it actually is a critical part of removing the little rocks in our life. And so I'm going to ask if you guys don't mind getting up the lights a little bit, because you guys have notes in your hands, and you may want to take notes and follow along. Let me just tell you this for just a little bit so we can actually see it right on our notes. I'm going to say something, and you'll probably, if you think about it, you'll probably recognize that it's true. My biggest breakthroughs have always followed some form of correction. My biggest periods of growth have always followed some point of discipline in my life, some point at which someone cared enough about me to say some really hard things to me. Has anyone else had that experience? Like the times when I've grown the most have often followed those times where someone put a finger in my chest. There's three phrases I like to talk a lot about in our church, if you don't know. One is I think God gives us high fives to celebrate with us. Sometimes I think God puts an arm around our shoulder to comfort and encourage us. And then I think sometimes God puts a finger in our chest. And I will be honest with you, I think the times in which I've grown the most have followed those times where God has put a finger in my chest and said, this is something that you have to pay attention to. And it hasn't just happened spiritually, but it's also happened in my life as a husband, as a father, as a pastor, as a man. It's happened. Those times in my life in which I've grown the fastest and the most have often followed those times in which I've been confronted or corrected. Now, here's the thing about discipline. We know about it. If you're a parent, you do it, right? We should at least. If you're a parent, you discipline your children. If you're a coach, if you're a teacher, if you're an employer, at some point you correct, you adjust, you discipline at some point. We all know about it, and we've all probably done it. But here's the honest truth. We're not huge fans of being on the other side of discipline, are we? Like, we're not huge fans of being corrected. We're not huge fans of being disciplined when we're on the receiving end. In fact, I would say that we probably don't ever or rarely use the word encouraging to describe discipline. Right? So normally what we would probably say about discipline is like, it was a little embarrassing. It was a little, I felt a little discouraged. I felt a little disheartened. We don't typically use the word encourage. If somebody corrects us or puts a finger in our chest or speaks with some firmness in their voice and has to discipline us, we don't typically walk away from there saying, I feel encouraged. Right? Now, when I'm reading through Hebrews chapter 12, I was surprised by the way that the Bible writer described discipline. Hebrews chapter 12, this is what he said. He said, after telling people to pay attention to Jesus, if you want to get rid of the little rocks in your life, take your little rock, talk to Jesus, pay attention to Jesus. Then he said this, which was kind of surprising. He said, have you forgotten the, look at that, encouraging words God spoke to you as your children? He said, my child, don't make light of the Lord's discipline, and don't give up when he corrects you. For the Lord disciplines those he loves, and he punishes each one he accepts as his child. I read through that, and immediately I begin to think, maybe we need to rethink discipline. Maybe we need to rethink how we think about God's correcting us. Maybe we need to rethink what it feels like and the role of discipline in our lives. Now, this week I was giving thought to this idea of rethinking discipline because I think it's important as we remove the little rocks from our life. So I asked the question on social media. I asked this question. What are some of the ways you do or have responded when you're disciplined or corrected? Myself, I've gotten mad. I've quit. I've laughed, like in a mocking way. I've pondered. I've made corrections. And then people were awesome, and they responded. And so I just wanted to share some of the responses with you. Not all of them, but some of them, right? One person said, when I'm disciplined or corrected, sometimes I'm sarcastic. I give a sarcastic response, and I'll argue. One person said, I often will shift the blame. One person said, I fight off stubbornness to respond back or do it again out of defiance. Someone else said, I flip them off. Oh, there you go, that's an option, right? Someone said, I felt sorry for poor little me. Someone said, I take things way too personally and assumed that this criticism or correction was a condemnation of my character. There was, someone said, pretty much I assumed that the other person didn't completely understand what the issue was. Someone said I get down on myself. There was one who said I get mad at times, and others said, sometimes I pout. Now, there were others who, most of the people came back around and said, after I do all those things, then I actually think about it and think, there may be some legitimacy to that criticism or that correction or that discipline, and then I align myself with what's right. And I appreciate, I love the answers to that. But here's what I think. I think a lot of our first responses to criticism or first responses to discipline or first responses to correction are exactly what the writer of Hebrews told us not to do. Look what he said. When you're corrected, look what he said. My child, don't make light of the Lord's discipline. In other words, don't lightly disregard it. Don't make fun of it. Don't mock it. And then he said, don't give up when God corrects you. And yet, as I think about my own responses to discipline and correction, when I read through the honest responses of many who responded, thank you for that, by the way. My sense is that our first response to God's discipline is often an immature one. Now, here's what I mean by immature. Not fully grown or developed. It's often like kids. Think about this. If you're a parent and you discipline your child, what are some of their first responses? They blame other people. I didn't do it. She did it. Like, well, I just saw you do it. No, they did it. Right? Or sometimes they'll be defiant. Sometimes they'll I just quit. I can't do this now. I just quit. Sometimes they'll get mad. Sometimes they'll pout. Sometimes they'll try to explain why they did what they did, and quite frankly, you don't care. It's just you just shouldn't have done that, right? And they'll try to explain, or on and on and on. And as I read, as a parent, I watch my kids and I watch other kids respond to discipline, respond to correction, and I'm like, oh gosh, this is embarrassing. But that looks a lot like how I, as an adult, immediately and initially respond to discipline. Sometimes I'm better at hiding it than they are. But the truth is, as adults, a lot of us in this room could say, that does kind of sound like my initial response to discipline as well. And sometimes we do that to God. God will lean in on us. I'm going to talk a little bit how we know it's God disciplining us. But sometimes God will lean in on us. He'll begin to push on us and begin to try to correct us and begin to weigh in on something that's unhealthy in our life, a little rock in our life. And you know what? Sometimes we do the kid thing. We pout. We ignore. We make fun of, we quit, we get defiant, we double down on. And the writer of Hebrews says, look, don't do this. Don't make light of it. Don't disregard it. Don't ignore it. Don't give up when God corrects you. Because this is for your good. So I'm thinking about this question, if we're going to talk about discipline, how does God discipline us? I mean, doesn't come down with this divine paddle and smack some crack. He doesn't do that, right? God has ways of disciplining us. He doesn't stand us in the corner. He doesn't give us time out. He doesn't do these things. How then does God discipline us? So I think probably one of the best places to look to answer this question is in the book of Psalms. Psalms is filled up. It's like a spiritual journal of several different people, one of whom is David. And David was the king of Israel. He was a warrior. He was a poet. He was a husband. He was a father. He had some really great spiritual highs, and he had some really terrible spiritual lows. He made some really big mistakes. He broke God's heart. He broke his family's heart. But he made some big mistakes as well as some huge successes. And he journaled about all that, and we have access to his journals in our Bible, Psalms. And so I'm reading through his Psalms, and I'm looking at how God disciplined it. And one place that I find in his journal in Psalm 32:4, he's talking about the discipline of God. It looks like two of the ways that God disciplines us are physically and emotionally. Let me show you what David said. He said this: "When I refused to confess my sin, I had a little rock in my life, and I would not acknowledge it. I kept hanging on to it. I wasn't willing to let it go. When I refused to confess it, my body wasted away, and I groaned all day long. Day and night, your hand of discipline was heavy on me. My strength evaporated like water in the summer heat. I felt your weight, God. I felt miserable when I would not let go of my little rock. Physically, I felt it. Emotionally, I felt it. I felt your weight because I wasn't willing to let go of the rock in my life. You disciplined me like that." And then there's a proverb in Proverbs chapter 14, verse 9. It says, "Fools make fun of guilt, but the godly acknowledge it and seek reconciliation." And sometimes God will use guilt. Sometimes he'll use emotional distress. Sometimes he'll even lean into us physically as a means of disciplining us, as a means of letting us know this thing in your life that you're not willing to let go of is going to cause you distress. I'm going to have to discipline you. I'm going to have to lean into you. I'm going to have to correct you. If you don't let it go, it's going to get difficult for you. And then I read in another place, Psalm 39:11, that God actually, as a means of discipline, sometimes he takes things from us. It says, "When you discipline us for our sins, you consume like a moth what is precious to us." Now listen, some of you in this room have lost things that are precious to you. Maybe it's a relationship. Maybe it's a job. Maybe it's a title. Maybe who knows what it is, but you've lost something important to you, precious to you, because you would not let go of the little rock. And God essentially says, I want you so terribly bad to get this right. I want you to run the race. I want you to win the race. And if you don't let go of the little rock, it's going to destroy you. So in an attempt to keep you from being destroyed, I'm going to discipline you. And that might include taking things that are important away from you. And then probably one of the most sobering ways, in my mind, that God will discipline us is by simply saying, if you insist, if you absolutely refuse to listen to me, if you absolutely refuse to remove the little rock from your life, I'm just going to let you have your own way. In Romans chapter 1, Paul says he's talking about people who knew God, but they wouldn't worship him as God or even give him thanks. These are people who were aware of God. They maybe sat in religious services. They maybe had access to some spiritual teaching. They were aware of God, but they would not allow him to have authority in their lives. They wouldn't acknowledge him. Paul says they began to think up foolish ideas of what God was like. In other words, God's probably okay with this little rock. He understands. It's a tough life. Sometimes the little rocks make my life easier. God gets that. They begin to make up foolish ideas of what God was like. As a result, the scripture says their minds became dark and confused. Claiming to be wise, instead, they become utter fools. And then look at this. So God abandoned them to do whatever shameful things their hearts desire. In other words, God says, you know what? I've tried. I've leaned into you. I've given you access to incredible teachers and resources, and you just won't change. So you know what? Go ahead. Hey, let me ask you a question. As a parent, have you ever done that with your kids? Like I have. I know if my kids eat all that candy, they're going to be sick. They don't know that. There have been a couple of times where I've said, you know what? I keep telling you, it's not going to work. You're going to feel terrible. No. All right. Go ahead. And they ate all the candy, and guess what happened? They felt terrible. Now, listen, I'm not going to stand back and watch my kids self-destruct to a point where it's irreparable. But sometimes God will say, hey, listen, if you're just not going to listen to me, I'm just going to step back and have at it. Do what you want. And sometimes that's a way that God disciplines us. Now, the bottom line is this. Whenever you're being disciplined by God, whether it's physical or emotional, maybe He's taking something from you, maybe He's just stepping back, maybe it's really silent and you haven't heard from God for a while. Whenever you're being disciplined by God, it's miserable. It feels terrible. There's no joy. There's no peace. And over time, if you ignore God's discipline, here's the concern. You will develop a heart that's calloused and insensitive to God. And you will actually, if you consistently ignore the discipline of God in your life, you will not hear from Him anymore. If we consistently ignore God, and we consistently embrace and hang on to the little rocks in our life, at some point the Father is going to say, you know what? Eat the whole box. Now, it's important to say this, so let me just make a quick caveat. Misery is not always the result of sin. In other words, just because you're having difficult times in your life, it is not necessarily connected to sin. Can I give you a classic example? Jesus went through some really crazy stuff. Can I get a witness? I mean, He had stuff that's worse than you or me. Really, really bad stuff. And yet the Bible says He was without sin. So just because your life is tough, just because there's difficult things in your life, does not mean there's sin in your life. However, discipline, on the other hand, is always the result of sin. Always the result of sin. If God is disciplining us, if God is pushing into us, if God is weighing down on us, it is always connected to some sin in our life. So an important question to ask as we're going through life, and we begin to feel a little miserable, and our joy goes away, and our peace begins to go away, an important question to ask is this: is this misery connected to some sin in my life? Is this joylessness, is this anxiety, is this fear, is this disheartedness, is this connected to a sin in my life? Now let me just tell you this. God will not discipline you without showing you. It's kind of like this. You ever be driving down the road, see a light go on behind you, and you're like, oh man, and you pray that light goes on around you, and so you slow down and the light slows down. You ever had that happen? Let's be honest, all right? Right. And you're like, oh crap. And sometimes you know, like I know what I did. I was going like 55 and a 35. It was stupid, right? So you pull over. But sometimes you don't know what you did, right? So you pull over. The cop gets out, walks up to you, and just says, you know why I pulled you over? And sometimes you're like, yeah. And other times you're like, I have no clue. You know what he does when you say that? I don't have a clue. You know what he does? He tells you. This is the same thing the Father in heaven does for us. If we will listen, we will begin to feel miserable, which is what we feel like when we see the light behind us, right? We pull over, and if we'll listen and if we'll ask, we will be told. Because God never disciplines us without telling us. God doesn't jump out from behind a door and just pop us a good one just to keep us in line. Like He doesn't just jump out and say, this is for all the times I missed. Pop! He doesn't roll like that. If there's discipline and trouble in your life, oftentimes we'll know right away, well, I know what this misery is connected to. It's connected to this. But there are times where we may not understand what this is connected to. But if we'll ask the Father, He will reveal that to us. Now let me just tell you 3 things about God's discipline. When God begins to discipline, the first thing that we need to know this: it's not fun. Like no one's like, oh yeah, man, I'm getting disciplined by God. Like, it's a good time. I'm having a good time. I like to be disciplined. It's not fun. In fact, the writer of the Hebrews, when he was talking about this, he said, look, no discipline is enjoyable while it's happening. In fact, he said, read this next line with me. It's painful. I don't like to get spanked. I don't like time out. I don't like losing my phone. I don't like, these are all disciplines for my kids. You can tell them here, right? Like, I don't like any of that stuff, right? It's not fun. It's not enjoyable. None of it. So, we just got to realize, like, it's never going to be fun to be disciplined by God. The second thing you need to know about discipline is this: it's always done in love. Hebrews chapter 12, verse 6. Look at this. The Lord disciplines those he, say it, and he punishes each one he accepts as his. God sees us. He sees the little rocks in our lives, and he's like, if you keep running with this in your shoe, it's going to wreck you. I love you enough to lean into you, and I'm going to have to discipline you, and it's not going to be fun. It might hurt. It might make you miserable, but if you'll let me get this out of your life, it will actually be better for you. Third thing you need to know about his discipline is it's always done for our good. God doesn't just come down on us and lean into us and get heavy on us and discipline us just for kicks. He always does it for our good. Hebrews chapter 12, look at this. Verse 10, our earthly fathers disciplined us for a few years, doing the best they know how. Let me just stop. This is unscripted. Let me just say this. Dads, we have an incredible responsibility to discipline our children. An incredible responsibility. Because there's two things. Number one, if you don't discipline them, someday someone who doesn't love them like you do will. We have an incredible responsibility to discipline our children. Secondly, in disciplining our children, we teach them something about God. It's incredibly important for us as fathers to take the disciplinary role that we fill, to take it seriously and to do it well with thoughtfulness and love for their good. The writer says, our earthly fathers disciplined us for a few years, doing the best they know how. But God's discipline is always good for us so that we might share in his holiness. In other words, God's like, look, if you look at me, if you look at Jesus, there are no little rocks. And I want to make you like me. And so the only way to get you there is to confront you, to correct you, to discipline you. You've got to get this out of your life. And then look what he says. No discipline is enjoyable while it's happening. It's painful. But afterwards, after the discipline, there will be a peaceful harvest of right living for those who are trained in this way. It's important. Now let me say this. Everybody all right? Yeah. This is important. If you say, it's been a while since I've felt God come down on me. I haven't been disciplined. I haven't felt that in a while. There's one of two reasons that God has not disciplined you. There's one of two reasons that you've not felt the weight of God. That, oh, gosh, I shouldn't have said that. Or, oh, I shouldn't be like that. Or, I really need to stop that. Or, I need to start that. If you haven't felt that coming down on you, there's one of two reasons. You ready? Reason number one. You're a fool. Now, here's why I say this. Let me read to you from Proverbs, the scriptures. Proverbs chapter 9, verse 8. Don't bother correcting mockers, they will only hate you. Proverbs chapter 23, verse 9. Don't waste your breath on fools, they will despise the wisest advice. Now listen, if it's been a while since you felt God come down on you, it could be because the last few times he leaned into you and went to correct you, you're like, yeah, whatever. I'm not going to do that. Or actually, God, I like this little rock, but, I'm going to hang on to it for a while. I think I'll be just fine. I know you'll keep forgiving me because I sin every day, and you'll be okay with that because Jesus went to the cross. I'm going to keep it in my sock. I know it's going to hurt my gait, my run, but it'll be okay. God's like, you know what? You're a fool. So I'm out. I'm not going to waste my breath on a fool because I know you're going to despise my advice, so I'll save it. If you listen, this is a tough word, and I love you, and I love me, and I'm listening, I'm like, Lord, have I been corrected lately? Have you leaned into me? Have you disciplined me? Because if you haven't, one of the reasons that you may not have disciplined me for a long time, it's not because I'm perfect, because my wife knows that, right? None of us in this room are perfect. We should all, if we're followers of Jesus, if we're believers, we should be hearing the corrective voice of God. If you're not, it could be because you are a fool. And you make fun of, and you ignore, and you disregard, and you don't take seriously the correction of God. And so he's like, I'm out. I won't do it anymore. The second reason that you may not be hearing and experiencing the discipline of God in your life is this, and this is unbelievably serious. You are not in a relationship with God. If you're not feeling the correction of God, if you're not feeling the discipline of God, if you've never felt like, oh, man, I shouldn't be saying that, or oh, I shouldn't be doing that, or oh, if you're not feeling that, it could well be that you are not in a relationship with God. Here's why I say this, Hebrews chapter 12, verses 6 through 8. Look at this. If God doesn't discipline you as he does all of his children, it means that you're, say it, illegitimate and not really his children at all. If you haven't felt the discipline of God, it might be time to do a serious evaluation on your spiritual well-being because it might not exist at all. I'm reading through all this stuff in Hebrews chapter 12. And it's leading me to believe that I have to, and we have to rethink discipline. We have to rethink the correction of God in our lives. And the first thing I would like to say about it is this. Discipline is normal for Christians. If you're a Christian, if you're a follower of Jesus, you should expect that God will be regularly leaning into you. He will regularly be correcting you. He will regularly be giving you a sense that, oh, I've got to change this, or oh, I should start that, or oh, I should go back and say I'm sorry, or God will regularly be doing that in our lives. You know why? Because He wants to make us more and more like Jesus. He wants to remove the little rocks from our lives so that we can run the race that He's called us to and run it for a really long time and do really well. Discipline is normal for Christians. The second thing I think about discipline as we begin to rethink discipline is this. Winners understand and act on discipline. Here's why I say winners. Because last week we looked, God has called us to a race. And He constantly, over and over through Scripture, He calls us to not only run the race, but to win the race. And men and women who understand discipline, I understand that God is not doing this because He hates me. He's not doing it because He's mad at me. He's doing it because He loves me. He's doing it because it's good for me. Men and women who understand that and then actually begin to act on that, those are the people who win. Those are the people who consistently are removing little rocks. See, here's the hope. That if you know me today, if you meet me from a year from now, I will be a different man because God is consistently transforming me. So that the man I am today will look different than the man I am a year from now. Because God is doing something on the inside by disciplining and correcting, removing little rocks. I love this. We're in a race. God wants us to win this race. He doesn't want us to fall. He doesn't want us to quit. His discipline is for our good so that we can finish. And here's what the writer of this letter that we're looking at, Hebrews chapter 12, after saying all this stuff about discipline, look what he says. So take a new grip with your tired hands and strengthen your weak knees. Make out a straight path for your feet so that those who are weak and lame will not fall, but become strong. In other words, he says, look, get a grip, make a plan, carry on. Carry on. This requires a high level of intentionality. Look, you don't get strong because you walk into a gym. You don't get rich because you walk into a bank. You don't get smart because you walk into a library. And you don't grow up spiritually just because you sit in a church. It requires listening to God, submitting to His discipline, actively seeking to remove the little rocks from our life so that we can become more and more like Jesus. And all of this is done because you are loved deeply by God. Now listen. In just a second, I'm going to invite our team up because I want to do something this morning. If you're being disciplined by God, if you're living with that constant, like that, the guilt, or there's no joy, there's no peace, there's frustration, there's anxiety, if that is in your life, it could be because God is disciplining you. Can I just encourage you, why not this morning just say, God, you're right. I'm going to confess you're right. David said, when I refused to confess my sin, I was miserable. So when I confessed it, I found joy and peace. Get rid of this little rock. So here's what I want to encourage you to do. Last week I asked you every morning to take this little rock and talk to Jesus. Take your rock and talk to Jesus. Take your rock and talk to Jesus. Every morning, take your rock and talk to Jesus. Let Him know what it is. Ask Him for forgiveness. Ask Him to help you remove this little rock from your life. Now this week, I want to add one thing to that. Throughout the day, maybe at lunchtime, but some point throughout the day, begin to rethink discipline. Is there misery in my life? Is it connected to sin? Is there something that God is weighing down on me? Is there something that I need to let go of? Am I being miserable? Am I experiencing all this because of some sin in my life? Would you begin to rethink discipline and realize that it comes from a Father who loves you and does this for your well-being and for your good? And as we do this, every week, every day, beginning to realize that God is for us He wants us to leave these things out of our life. Give us a victory. That's what He wants. As we begin to do this, transformation begins to happen. Now, this morning, I'm going to actually ask you, as we sing, just a moment, we're going to sing a song about the love of God for us. I'm just going to ask, some of you in this room may say, you know what, I know what my little rock is, and I know exactly what discipline feels like because I'm being crushed. Some of you may say, you know what, I've never really thought about it, but today I want to take a step and say, you know, God, I know there are little rocks in my life, and I just want to take a step and say, I'm ready to confess them, and I'm ready to begin removing them from my life so that I can run this race and run it well. If you just do this with me this morning, we don't always do this, but sometimes we do. If you would just stand with me, and if you're ready to make that confession, if you just come and stand with me, because I'm one of you, I have rocks in my life that I'm every day talking to God about. If you would stand with me up front, it's just a confession of your faith, saying, I'm in, I'm going to do something about this rock. It'd be cool to look around and see that there's other people on this journey with you. So I'm going to ask us all to stand. The band's going to come in just a second. We're going to play. And if you're ready to say that to God, I'm getting rid of the little rock. I'm going to submit to your discipline. I know that you love me. Father, this morning, every single one of us in this room at some point has a little rock or little rocks in our lives that are slowing us down, that are tripping us up in this race of faith you call us to run. Some are actively seeking to get rid of them. Others are hanging on to them. I pray this morning, Father, that you, as a Father who loves us, as a Father who knows what's good for us, I pray that you'll lead into us, Lord, and show us, God, there's no value in holding on to these things. They're going to distract us. They're going to slow us down. They're going to hurt us. This morning, by stepping out and standing together, Lord, up front, we say together, we are done with the little rocks. We're letting them go. We're getting rid of them. We're confessing they are in our life. We're giving them to you. I pray that you would begin, Lord, to diminish the power of the little rocks in our life. Give us new power. Give us courage to say no to the things we should say no to. Give us courage to reach out for help. Give us courage to start new things that you've called us to, so that we can run well this race of faith you've called us to run. Lord, as we make this prayer, I pray that you'll remind us of this one thing. All of this that you do is because you love us. Thank you for your love in our lives, Father. In Jesus' name. Amen.
Keep recording.
I was lost, I was in chains, the world had a hold of me. My heart